Jaylin Williams from Arkansas, 6'10", 9-foot standing reach. He's listed at 236 pounds at the draft profile. He was listed at 245 pounds during the season, so that's interesting to look at when we talk about something later. He had a 7'1" wingspan. He's going to be 20 years old at the draft, or he's going to be 19, but he'll turn 21 on June 29th. He went to Arkansas. The one sentence I got from I think it was actually NBA.com. They had Synergy do a bunch of draft profiles for them. And the one sentence from them was, smart big man who has nice size and is making strides as a jump shooter, but did much of his best work at Arkansas, showing off his feel for the game while threading passes to teammates and drawing charges. Huge. Drawing charges is probably his biggest strength. Isaac, how many charges did he have last year at Arkansas?
54. I watched all of them yesterday.
He had 54 charges in college basketball in one season. Guess who had the most charges in the NBA last year?
I don't know, Nick. Who did?
Kevin Love and Blake Griffin had 26. Kevin Love played 74 games. He had 26 charges. Derek White played 75 games. He had 25 charges. Our guy Jalen Brunson in 79 games in the regular season had 17 charges, and that was like, what is that, top 10? Yeah, it's like 10th in the NBA last year. So this is an elite skill for Jaylin Williams, is drawing charges. But other skills for him and strengths. On offense, he was all SEC. He was one of 9 players to be named first team all SEC. He's got a jumper. He at least has one. He relies on it a little bit too much. We'll talk about that in a minute. But he seems like a guy that's like a perfect release valve for like a zone or a trap in college. He's a pretty good athlete, fluid. He can dribble the ball really well. I think Raphael in his profile said he has great ball handling skills for a big man. He's a pretty good roller. He can pick and pop a little bit, but the great passing, like he can just make some. He threw a couple, like one time he got trapped on the left wing. I saw him, and he threw that Luka behind the back pass, bounce pass into the paint to a guy that was cutting. And you're just like, this is a 6'10" like center that is doing this. That you're not asking to handle the ball too much. So for him to be able to do that is just next level. On defense, he was all SEC defense. He was one of 5 players to be named that, which, by the way, I didn't realize that there was 9 players on all SEC first team, but they only do 5 players on the defensive team, and they only do 1 defensive team, and they do 3 all SEC teams. It's like 3 all SEC teams of 9 players is like all the SEC. Like, what are we doing at this point? But anyway. On defense, he's a good rim protector. He's a really, really good rebounder, and he's a mobile big that can defend in space. He's got really good timing, obviously, with the charges, and he only allowed 0.82 points per post-up possession in college, which is not incredible, but still a pretty good number. Anything else you want to add to his strengths?
I love this guy. He's one of my favorite bigs in this bottom half of the draft.
So interesting.
I would personally take him over Koloko. I think so. I watched all the charges and I couldn't help just to laugh, because I was laughing watching it, saying, "Dude, I would hate this guy if I played against him." But he's so dang smart. You said feel for the game. I was watching too much of this guy because, and I'd put in all caps his feel for the game, dude. He knows how to play basketball. I know it sounds like really dumb and cliche, but he really does. And especially when we're looking at 2 guys and like Koloko and
so
Jaylin
different.
Williams,
Yeah,
it's like you could tell who's been playing basketball for so long. I also read this article to where talking about his charges, because it's like a legit thing how he draws so many charges. They said he started learning in 1st grade how to draw charges. I'm like, wow. One of the things I really liked was Eric Musselman, the Arkansas coach. He says he's their best talker on defense.
Yeah.
And, this is an Arkansas team that made a deep run in the NCAA tournament that beat Gonzaga, with Chet and those guys, and he had a big time game. If you want to see one play that would get you super hyped, see him absolutely poster Paolo. It was unbelievable. In that next round, they lost to Duke, but he put Van Carroll on a nasty poster. But he had 10.5 inch hand width at the combine. It was the second. It was one of the biggest at the combine. 7'1" wingspan. We love when guys are 6'9", 6'10", 6'11" with a bigger wingspan.
Yep.
I love his passing. I love his energy and passion. He played one day at the combine, and then he set out the next day. There's rumblings that he got a end of the first round promise of that. Didn't play again. Didn't see the floor. I think when you start looking at ceiling floor for him, I saw the no ceilings guys. They threw out a comp, and I was like, because I was trying to find what a comp. I was like, all right, he's like a center version of Brunson in a way. It's like It's like center version of Brunson, DeJuan Blair, a lesser athletic Bam because he can switch. You know, he plays some defense. But then they threw out Anderson Varejao, and I'm like, wow, oh my gosh, that's a really good one. Comp. I love that comp for him. And
the comp that he threw out himself, I was watching it on NBA.com. They had an interview with him. And I love when sometimes you listen to interviews with guys, you're like bored. You're like, not really getting a lot. When I listened to an interview with him, you could tell, like, immediately I was like, oh, he's really smart. He was a talker. Leadership. He felt like responsibility to those guys at Arkansas. He really wanted to step up as a leader that year. You could tell in like all the clips that they were playing. And his comp for himself was Al Horford. He said Al Horford is, who I compare myself to. He said humbly, I'll compare myself to Al Horford, which I appreciated. But you can kind of see that, like a dynamic guy. And I would compare him to old Al Horford, not young Al Horford, because he doesn't have the athleticism of like a younger Al Horford. But old Al Horford now, the way that he plays, I could see that. The passing, he can rim protect, and it kind of throws you off. You're like, oh, how can that guy rim protect when it doesn't look like he has either the tools or the size to get there? He still does it because he's just really smart. But a couple weaknesses. I didn't really get into that earlier, but he said himself on that interview, he said, I'm not the most athletic person. He was asked what's fair criticism. And
that's Brunson?
Did he say that? I know, right? He lacks elite length and lateral quickness that's going to limit him defensively. And then he settles for jumpers a ton. And he has got really inconsistent shooting touch. Like the shooting and the jumper is there. Like you can see it in his makes. You're like, okay, that guy can hit jumpers and can hit three-point shot, but he only shot 24% from three his sophomore year, which is his last year. He's only 2 years at Arkansas. And that I think that's a huge weakness. It's the athleticism and that jumper. If both of those were like elite, he would be probably, I don't know.
He'd be higher at the draft.
Maybe like top 5 prospect because he just has so much else in his game.
And he's not the biggest like lob threat in the world. I mean, he can definitely catch a lob, but it's not like, Koloko with a 7'5" wingspan that catching lobs. And I think if skipping, down to why Dallas does not draft him, why a team doesn't draft him there in the late first round or something. It's you looking at it saying, I feel like some of our listeners might be saying, all right, so you said Koloko's really good at catching lobs, at protecting the paint, and doing like these 3 to 4 things that are like really good. But why do you love Jaylin Williams so much? And like this is where eye test comes into it too. Of like when you watch this dude, he just makes the right plays. He knows how to play basketball. And it's like I think so why not? Is because what's his elite skill? And it's like, all right, well, he's not like protecting the paint. He's not elite at this, but he's dang good at everything. And that's the thing. And he talks, he seems like the best teammate. And so, and my question while I go is like, can this guy play in a playoff series? Yes. I think he can play day one in the playoffs right now. And I love this guy. He's one of my favorite. If we had to rank some guys there in this range, then we're going to do plenty more profiles. But when it comes to bigs, if Dallas goes the big route, I would be thrilled if Jaylin Williams is a Mav.
Why the Mavs should take him and shouldn't take him, kind of the same as Isaac's, but the Mavericks should take Jaylin Williams if they're betting on the skill and intelligence and the jumper to be real and to find a really unique big man that can play in the playoffs right now, which is exactly what you said. And we don't talk about this stuff before we get on. So yeah, he could play in the playoffs right now. Like you could see that stuff translate. Why they wouldn't though? It's kind of all the things you said. He's too slow to be a mobile big man. He's too small to be a defensive big, and he's too inconsistent at shooting to be a stretch big. So like, okay, what box does he fit in? He has to try to like make his own box where he's like a Al Horford, Draymond type on offense. And then defensively, he's sort of like a, I don't know if we have many guys like this in the NBA, but yeah, it's those things. Too small to be
angles defensively.
Yes,
unbelievable.
That's the charges.
I was just nerding out of watching like his angles and being able to read passes and steals and the charges thing. Like it's funny, like watching. Like, dude, this would be so annoying. But like, there's people breaking down his game, legit saying like this is part of his rim protection because it throws guys off so much because he's so good at taking charges. That it's like, oh, do I go up? Because he's going to take the charge, but he's also 6'10". He can protect the rim some too. So it's just, he's a brilliant player. High IQ. Love it.
Incredible. So that's Jaylin Williams from Arkansas. There's